Hello, I'm Kathy Morris, pastor of the Dixon United Methodist Church. Today is Good Friday. Today is the day in which we give ourselves to the solemn reflection on Jesus' death upon the cross. The cross of Jesus has been a central focus of our worship. Many of our hymns give a proclamation as to the meaning and power of his death. When I survey the wondrous cross on which the Prince of Glory died, and the much-loved, the old rugged cross. The symbol of the cross has been a part of our lives, and we truly do focus ourselves in our prayer and meditation as we look upon the cross. The cross has been something that Christians in every age and in every place have sought ways of expressing, giving representation and meaning to their understanding of the saving action of Jesus Christ, not just in his death, but also in his resurrection and his ascension. Today, I'm going to share with you some of the crosses that have been a part of my life. We have crosses here that come from the Protestant tradition. In the Protestant tradition, the figure of Jesus is not represented. This is a part of our proclamation that the power of death has been defeated by Jesus in his resurrection and ascension. This cross was one that was presented to me when I was in the 3rd grade. It was a gift that was given in recognition of my service as an acolyte in the church in which I grew up. This cross here comes from Southwell Minster in England. That was the cathedral that was near the home where my husband Peter grew up. This cross is made of a stone that shows the imprint of fossils, a reminder of our belief that Christ was there at the beginning and was a part of God's creative action. Now I'm going to share with you some crosses that come from Haiti and reflect the culture of that country. These were crosses that were brought back from members of our congregation who served in mission following the earthquake in Haiti. This first one has vibrant colors and the energy that speaks of life. In this cross here, we see the hearts that reflect the love that was in Christ's sacrifice for us. There are crosses that tell stories. I have 2 Celtic crosses that tell biblical stories, and crosses that are of a more recent design. This first Celtic cross is a depiction of the struggle between evil and the goodness that is in Christ. In the cross, we see the faces of Adam, Eve, Cain, and Abel. And indeed, it is Christ's sacrifice that liberates us from the power of sin. In this cross, we see the figure of Jesus at the top here. And then toward the bottom of the cross, we have the depiction of stories from the Old Testament. This one here is a depiction of the story of Adam and Eve and their disobedience with the snake and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the event that broke the relationship between God and humanity. In the second story, we see Abraham with his son Isaac being offered as a sacrifice and God's provision of a ram. This is a part of God's saving work, restoring the broken relationship, and a sign of Abraham's trust in God's saving will and desire. Here in this final story, we have Daniel in the lion's den, as Daniel trusts in God's protection as he is in a place of danger. Here in this cross, the nativity story is depicted with Jesus, Joseph, and Mary, the angels, and the star. This is a reminder that the cross was in Jesus' future and that it was his purpose in coming to earth. In this cross, we see Jesus' passion. It begins with his prayer in the Garden of Gethsemane, his journey to Golgotha, where his cross will be placed. Here in the center, we see the 3 crosses with those who were there to witness the crucifixion. And then at the top, we have the figure of Jesus with his arms outstretched, a sign of his victory in the resurrection. While some crosses tell us about what Jesus did, other crosses tell us who he is. In this cross, which comes from Italy, it is a ceramic cross that has a glaze on it which adds a luster to it. At the top, we see the Latin words lux mundi, meaning light of the world. This cross is a proclamation that Jesus is the light of the world. And then this cross that comes from Costa Rica, we see a depiction of all of creation, the night, the day, the moon, the sun, the plants. This is a cross that tells us that Jesus is the ruler of all creation, and a reminder that we learn in the Gospel of John that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and through the Word all things were made. The final cross comes from the Greek Orthodox tradition. We know that because the 2 fingers that are extended. This is a cross that focuses our attention on that sacrifice that Christ made. Let us look upon this cross as we hear the proclamation of Jesus' crucifixion, as it comes to us from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 27, verses 32 through 54.
As they went out, they came upon a man from Cyrene called Simon. They compelled this man to carry his cross. And when they came to a place called Golgotha, which means place of the skull, they offered him wine to drink, mixed with gall. But when he tasted it, he would not drink it. And when they had crucified him, they divided his clothes among themselves by casting lots. Then they sat down there to keep watch over him. Over his head they put the charge against him, which read, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." Then 2 bandits were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who would destroy the temple and build it up in 3 days, save yourself if you are the Son of God. Come down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests also, along with the scribes and elders, were mocking him, saying, "He saved others. He cannot save himself. He is the King of Israel. Let him come down from the cross now, and we'll believe him. He trusts in God. Let God deliver him now if he wants to. For he said, 'I am God's son.'" The bandits who were crucified with him also taunted him in the same way. From noon on, darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m. At about 3 o'clock, Jesus cried with a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani," which is, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, "This man is calling for Elijah." At once one of them ran to get a sponge, filled it with sour wine, and put it on a stick to give to him to drink. But others said, "Wait, let's see whether Elijah will come to save him." Then Jesus cried with a loud voice and breathed his last. At that moment the curtain of the temple was torn in two, from top to bottom. The earth shook and the rocks were split. The tombs also were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. After his resurrection they came out of the tombs and entered the holy city and appeared to many. Now when the centurion and those with him who were keeping watch over Jesus saw the earthquake and what took place, they were terrified and said, "Truly, this man was God's Son."